Hello, crafting friends. I'm Doreen DeSavis from It Begins with Ink and Paper. Welcome to Simply Stamping Sunday. I'm really happy you're able to join me this evening, and I'm really happy to be here since I wasn't able to be here Friday night. So thank you for your patience with that. You know, school starts, and as soon as we have kids, the germs start going around like crazy. I guess that's all I have to say about that. Let's just make sure things are right where I want them so that you can see really well. So it is the start of a new month. How exciting. And for this month, we're going to be using the Gathering Moments stamp set. It is a perfect stamp set to welcome fall, and we are going to have a lot of fun with this stamp set. So let's get started. Let me show you. This is a cling stamp set. As I've said before, our cling stamp sets are not going to be around for much longer. Stampin' Up's having a really hard time sourcing the rubber, so we're going to only have the photopolymer stamp set, excuse me. I am using, as you can see, almost every single stamp. I did use that too in the set tonight. It also has a great set of dies, and I'm going to have to be honest with you, I always hand cut everything I do for Simply Stamping Sunday. But when I stamped the 56 things that needed to be hand cut, my arthritic hands were saying, please, please, don't make me cut all of those. And I did use the dies to help me cut some of them out. Most of them, I guess I'll say. All right. Well, tonight you're in for a treat because we're going to make 8 different cards, and we're going to use a one-sheet wonder to do so. So this one-sheet wonder, most one-sheet wonders you see are done on 12 by 12 paper, either with designer series paper or a 12 by 12 sheet of paper. But today I'm going to use an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, just a standard sheet of cardstock. And I'm going to stamp this up and then cut it in such a way that we can make 8 different cards with it. I'm going to use a variety of ink colors. I'll be using Cajun Craze, Darling Duckling, Old Olive, Crumb Cake, Pecan Pie, Cherry Cobbler, and Early Espresso. So every stamp has their own color. So let's get started. When I do a one-sheet wonder, one of the things I love about a one-sheet wonder is just you get to do so much stamping. I always start with my largest image. So I'm starting with Cajun Craze, and I'm starting with this leaf. Now I really want to fill up this sheet with my stamped images. If I leave too many blank spaces, I am probably not going to be as happy as I could be with the finished product. So I'm just going to go around this piece of cardstock. I'm rotating my image so it's not going to be always in the same direction. And I'm just going to stamp this background. Okay, there we go. First stamp done. I'm just going to set that aside and set aside my ink. I'm going to be using these colors. So you're going to start by, as I said, you need a piece of 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock, and I'm going to be showing you the other things, other supplies that I used in just a few minutes after this is all stamped. So I decided for my yellow, I usually use Cajun Craze, but I decided to try this new in color, which is Darling Duckling. I really am enjoying using all of the new in colors. But our new in colors really don't have, the Timid Tiger might make a nice fall leaf, but for the most part, they're not designed for fall. They're not really fall colors. Okay, so there's our yellow. Next, we're going to be using our old olive. Let me get that. So I'm using the 3 largest stamps first. And I'm just filling in the space. The space is left from the last stamp. It's okay if you stamp on top of a stamped image as you're going along. Once I cut this, I'm going to be using it in many different directions. So I want the leaves and the images to be in different directions. That way, when I cut them, I can use the image upside down or sideways, and it will still work. Okay, so we're filling up our space nicely. Now we're on to crumb cake, and we're going to be stamping the mushroom. I love that this set has other images than just leaves, because we know that when we go outside in the fall, we're going to find a lot of mushrooms around, especially after a rain. I'm going to be out in the woods with my class all this week as we work on our forest study. The other thing I like about this stamp set is that it is a distinctive ink stamp set. So you get a lot of beautiful images from it. Okay, so that's it for our mushroom. So now we're going to go to, there we go. Sorry about that. So we're using pecan pie, and now we have our acorn image. And you can see how this is starting to fill in nicely, but we're not done yet. Get our acorn all over the place. We don't want every space covered, but we want most of them. Okay, I think, we need one up here. There we go. I think we've got our acorn well represented. So now let's go on to our berries. And we're going to use cherry cobbler for the berries. Hi Lynn, hi Roz, hi Bonnie, thanks for joining tonight. So as I said, I always start with the largest stamp and work my way to the smallest. That way you can fill in all those little areas. And you can always come back if you see that you need to use another image, that you need more of it somewhere. This will make the background of all of our cards. So I think we've got enough of our berries. All right. So now the only thing left is I have a stamp that has just little dashes on it, and I'm going to just now fill in all of the spaces. We're not going to have every single space filled in, but I'm going to try to get lots of them. I'm stamping twice, so we'll have some at full with the early espresso and some that are a little lighter. So I'm mainly going where there's still some open space big enough to stamp something. And then I'll hold this up closer so you can see what the background looks like. A one-sheet wonder is really great when you want to stamp a bunch of cards at once. It's helpful to make a bunch when maybe you don't have, that maybe you don't stamp the greetings on them, so you can save them to use at another time. Okay, just looking to see if there's anywhere else I want to add. And I think we're good to go. Okay, so we'll put that away. And this is more of a close-up of what I just did. All right, now I'm going to cut this. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut this at 5.5. So right in half. I'm going to put the bottom half aside for just a moment, and I'm going to take this half, and I am first going to cut I'm going to cut this by 4 and 5.5. We'll set that aside. Then I'm going to cut 2 1/4. And put those aside. I'm going to take our larger piece, and I'm just going to cut this at a diagonal. So we have these two pieces. Now when I did that, I can see like 2 spaces right away. And this what kind of happens after you cut it. You might say, oh my goodness, I can't believe I've got a white space right there. Because you just happened, the way you cut it, just... So that's what I meant by you might find that you are going back in. Okay, so the first half is cut. That will make 4 different cards. Now I'm going to take my other half, and I'm first going to cut off a 3-inch piece. and we'll set that aside. Then I'm going to cut off a 3 7/8. No, I'm going to first cut 2 1/8 off. So let me start with that. Oh, and I just messed up. Oops, I meant to cut 3 1/8. So we'll be making some adjustments with our cards, and that's okay. This will be 3 1/8. I was reading my notes incorrectly. So we'll make some changes. And then I'm going to cut this by 1 1/8. 1 1/8. So you'll see what the original design was, and then you'll see what I ended up doing. Okay, so let's start putting these together. And so I'm going to start with the 2 pieces that I cut as a diagonal. And I might be trimming this a little bit. You'll see as I go along. So with the first one, I am going to I'm going to turn them both on their side. So they'll fit this side, and this is our first card we're going to make. So I'm using a 5.5 by 8.5 piece of very vanilla cardstock, and a 4 by 5 1/4 piece of Daffodil Delight, a 1/2 inch strip of early espresso. So I am going to just cut a tad off of our side here. So that it will layer nicely. So this piece is going to go on just like that. So I'm going to grab my adhesive. There we go. I'm going to take this piece and it is going to go across just like that. And then I'll trim the little bit off on the side. So this is the piece that I had left over from when I made my first sample this morning. And you know, it's not long enough, so let me just cut another piece of early espresso paper. So I'm just cutting a 1/2 inch section. I thought that maybe it would be long enough. Okay, this will work now. So I'm just going to put this right along the edge of my cut piece, and then I'll just take my scissors and cut these pieces, the edge off. There we go. And then we'll get this side too. Okay, so we have that nice edge. You can see that I cut a little lower on this side. Still going to work and be nice. So our first stamp that I'm going to stamp, I love the sentiments in this stamp set. Your friendship means the world to me. And so I'm going to stamp that right at the top. And then I'm going to add this mushroom that I had pre-stamped and cut. And already put a dimensional on. And I'm just going to put that on under it. And then we'll add our adhesive. And I know I have a bone folder somewhere here. There we go. And this will go just on the front. And then on the inside, I'm going to stamp a mushroom. Since I use the mushroom as my focal point. And there we go. Card number 1 is done. Set that aside and we'll grab our second card. So our second card, I'm using the same. I'm using a 8.5 by 5.5 piece of very vanilla cardstock. I have here a 4 by 5 1/4 piece of Cajun Craze, and I have my other half of our piece of background. So, and I previously put together 3 of the stamped images that I cut out. So let's start with closing this up. And again, I'm just gonna, I think this one I'll just snip it right off. Just gonna snip a little piece so that it will layer on this. And in case I didn't show you, this is the card that we're gonna make. And the inside. So I'm just going to layer this on. And then I'm going to take my trimmer, because I don't want this whole background on, and I'm just going to take that piece off. I'm going to put this on the front of the card. There we go. I'm going to take my Cajun Craze ink and I'm going to take the Mini Thanks. Let me just find that one. I have a lot of stamps out tonight. And I'm just going to be stamping that across the front like that. I'm going to keep this out because on the inside I want to stamp my leaf, and we'll close that up. And I'm going to grab my pecan and stamp my acorn. So now the inside of the card is stamped. And now we're just going to take this little bouquet of leaves I made, and the acorn. Like I said, I cut out 56 pieces for these 8 cards, and because I'm making 8 cards, I wanted to make sure I had enough time to do this. So here is our second one. Set that aside. And let's see. Let's work with these 3 pieces next. So those were all sliced from one piece. We're going to use another piece of Very Vanilla. This is the last Very Vanilla that we'll use tonight for a base. This is what the card is going to look like, and the inside. So I'll set that over here. We are going to need, I'm holding them, 3 pieces of 1 1/4 by 3 1/4 pieces of Old Olive cardstock. Again, 5 1/2 by 8 1/2. I'm going to fold this and burnish the edge with my bone folder. I am going to be adding adhesive to the backs of this and mounting them. So there's the first one. And then I just want to make sure I'm lining them up correctly. So here we go with another one. And there we go, that looks right. Okay, so this is how the 3 of them go together. What I do when I'm putting on 3 like this so that I get them lined up, I do the outside first. I already know, based on how I cut the cardstock, that they're going to fit. So I'm not worried about that. So I'm just going to put my right side one. I could have put my left one on first. Then I'm going to put my left and get them lined up evenly. And now I just need to put my middle one in. Quick and easy. And then I can make sure it is spaced perfectly. That looked great. Then what I'm going to do is on my inside, I'm going to grab my Old Olive ink and I am just going to stamp 2 of them. There we go. Keeping that out, I'm going to get my sentiment. Here it is. Expressing heartfelt gratitude. And I'm going to use the Old Olive ink. And then the only thing we have left to do is to add our little leaves that I pre-stamped and cut out. And I'm just lining them up so that they don't cover the sentiment. And there you have it. Card number 3, I think. Yes. Card number 3. We'll put those aside. Now, okay, so All right, so our next card, we're going to need 3 little berries for this one. We're going to need another little bouquet. I pre-stamped my greeting, just a little hello. Got some extra berries. And on the inside, I already added my berry there. And then I'll show you the one other thing I did, and then I'll show you the card. So this time, for the rest of the cards, I'm going to try to use all the different colors as a base. So here is our cherry cobbler. And this is going to go on the inside. So we'll get the easy part all done. So anything that I needed to stamp a greeting, I pre-stamped that just to speed things up tonight. And I also, in this case, pre-stamped a background. So the card I am making is this one here. And what I did was I used the Daffodil Delight, and I stamped a background, and then I took 3/4 inch pieces of the cherry cobbler and just glued it right across the front. So now I'm going to take my piece. Is this the, let's see. I know that I got these cut wrong, so alright, I'm just going to have to trim this a little bit because it's a little too big now. So that's 3, and I want it to be 2 1/4 by 3 1/4. So I have a piece of 2 1/4 by 3 1/4 red here. This is 4 by 5 1/4, very vanilla. And then I've got my little pieces that I pre-stamped. So I'm going to want this to be 3 1/8 by 2 1/8. So we're just going to take a little bit off. And I'm going to want this to be, how long was that again? Here it is. Okay, and this was, I think, 3 1/4, so I want this to be 3 1/8. There we go. So, as you're going to see, as we continue making our cards, that you can cut this any way you want and make a couple adjustments, and you're good to go. And that's what we're going to be doing with some of the cards tonight. So this was the first one. It's actually exactly the way I wanted it. I just needed to trim it down a little bit. So I'm going to put this on the cherry cobbler. I'm going to put this piece right on the front. So we'll just add our adhesive to it. We're going to have fun with this stamp set this month. I love fall anyway, so I'm glad to have a really nice set to use with you for the fall months. So we'll just put a few dimensionals on the back of this to give it some height. Take off the backings. And this is going to go on right here. We're going to add our little bouquet to the right of the stamped image. And that's going to go right like that. And then I wanted to have a little fun with these cherries, and so, or the berries. They're not cherries, but, and so I'm going to put a dimensional, and I'm going to put these over the berries that are on the front. So they're just going to fit right over. They might go over the edge a little bit. That's okay. But I didn't want to just leave this flat. So I just thought this added a little bit of fun and surprise. Okay. And then we're just going to add some adhesive to our hello. And I'm going to stick that right under the cherries. And there is card number 4. Halfway done. And now the fun is going to begin. Okay, I think I'll do this one next because this one is going to stay pretty much the same too. So this is the next card we're going to make. And here's what I did. So I didn't like having the plain edges. So I took some of the crumb cake ink and I took that little splatter stamp. Let me see where it is hiding. Over here. Let me just give it a quick clean because I don't want to use, I want to use the crumb cake on it. So we'll just clean that real quick. I already stamped one side. I only need to do about 5/8 of an inch, but I'm going to just do a little extra just to make sure I have enough to cover it up. So I'm just going to go there we go. And then I have a piece here of early espresso that measures 3 1/8 by 5 1/2. And I'm going to take that 3-inch piece and it's going to go right on it. So we'll just add some adhesive. There we go, beautiful. Add some more adhesive to the back. Make sure it's evenly spaced. So we have that nice little border of the little dots. I already stamped the inside. It says thankful for you, and I stamped 3 leaves. Put that on the inside. And then I'm going to take this little spray of 2 leaves and a acorn and just add this to the front. I'm going to put it right over the center like this, and then I'm going to just tuck this right under like that, having it go a little bit to the right. So tuck it under so we don't cover up any of the sentiment. And there's card number 5. I really like this one. I think it came out really nice. Okay, so now let's go on to card number 6. This is where we're going to have to make some adjustments because we've got some different size pieces here. So let's start with this one. So in this one, I just stamped the mushroom on the inside. I used a shorter piece of the old olive and this, and did gather and added 3 little mushrooms on the front. So let's see how we'll get this to work. All right. So this is going to go in the inside. Like I said, the only thing I stamped on it was a mushroom. On the front, so we're going to have to cut one of these down. I have one that's a little small anyway. So we'll do this one. And we're going to need to cut it just a little bit. It's 5 1/4, so I want to make sure it's 5 1/4. Let me get out my paper trimmer. Thank you for joining us tonight, Bonnie. I know you have to leave. Yeah, this is a little longer tonight because we're making 8 cards. Felt I had to do something grand since you sat through missing Funfold Friday twice. Okay, so we're going to put this on like that. Add our adhesive here. Another really quick card. This will go on the front like that. We're going to add I just stamped gather. Thinking more like Thanksgiving. And now we'll add our mushrooms. And I'm just going to have them growing on top of each other. And then I put a dimensional on the back of this one to pop it up. And card number 6 is done. Okay, 7 and 8 are very similar. So we are using Old Olive cardstock. 5 1/2 by 8 1/2. We are then using some very vanilla cardstock that measures 5 1/4 by 4. I just stamped a little bit on the bottom, and as you can see right here, I put together 2 leaves and berries. And I'm using some Cajun craze that measures 2 1/2 by 5 1/2. So hopefully, let's see. I think I'm going to put this one on. And it's just actually, well, I can still have it that wide. Because this didn't get cut the right width, this one is going to have just a bigger border on it, and that's fine. So I'm just going to center it on the piece of Cajun craze. Oops, a little crooked. And then we'll add our adhesive here. And this is going to go on the bottom of our card, just like that. We're going to take the gather, and in Cajun Craze, we're going to stamp it right on the card front, like that. And I just didn't press it down, so I'm going to try to just go over this. Fixed it. Look at that. Those markers do come in handy. And then I have my little swag of leaves and berries. And that is going to go right up here at the top. And that is card number 7. 1 card left. And this is that card. So now we're just going to do the opposite. So I'm going to assume that this one might be a little large as well. No, that's good. It's just how I wanted it. Okay, this one will not take us long at all. So again, I have a piece of 2.5 by 5.5 piece of Cajun Craze that I'm going to put our piece of our One Sheet Wonder on. I am going to take my 8.5 by 5.5 piece of Darling Duckling, and this one this time is going to go towards the top. In case I didn't show you the card, I don't remember if I did or not. So I'm just going to add my adhesive. I've got just a little bit hanging off, so I'm going to just trim that off, and this is going to go right up here. I'm going to take Expressing Heartfelt Gratitude, and I'm going to clean it because I don't remember what color I used on it. Oh, and it was green, so I would not want that going into my Cajun Craze. And I am going to stamp this in the lower right-hand corner. There we go. And then we're just going to put another swag. You can see why I used my dies to help me this time. Though I could have easily cut them all out by hand, but I decided not to. And then on my piece of 4 by 5.25 piece of Very Vanilla, I added a 1/2 inch strip of the Cajun Craze cardstock for the inside. And that is our 8th card. Let's just move these stamp pads and stamps out of the way so we can review what we did tonight. So, we used 3 of our pieces like this, but all in different ways. So we had one on the left-hand side, one at the bottom of the card, one at the top of the card. So those are 3 of our 8 cards. Then we started with our 2 cards that I had cut at a diagonal for that look. We had this card that we had cut the 3 strips and put that together. And then we ended with the cherry cobbler card and the crumb cake card. So there you have it, our first week of Simply Stamping Sunday with the Gathering Moments set. Friday night you're going to see this set again for my fun fold, because that's what I had planned for this past Friday night, and I don't want to waste that. Of course I'll be back next Sunday night. We're going to look at some of the designer series paper that comes with this, but it's always nice to do something stamping wise. So I hope everyone has a tremendous week. Hope the weather is beautiful, and I will see you Friday night. Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.